All right, we're joined on the line by none other than Robert Miles. You're in Ibiza, longtime fan of your work. Children's still my all-time favorite song, and we'll come back to that maybe. I'm sure you get asked a lot of questions still, but you have a brand new album out called 13. How's the feedback so far?
The feedback has been pretty good, especially from the people that know what I've done before this. So the Miles Gertu album in collaboration with Trilo Gertu, and before that Organic, which was a bit more kind of into the world environment kind of thing. And yeah, I'm pretty happy. We just released the new video as well, which is pretty good. We're getting really good feedback, and to be happy anyway in these days of the music industry is like, it's what it is, because anyway, the internet has changed everything, the way we sell record, the way we distribute record, the way people consume music and all the art in general, and you have to go with it, and you have to adapt and change with time.
So why did you do the two different volumes this time?
Of the album?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically there was the original album, which has the 13 tracks that were originally included, and then we did a remix EP with 3 remixes. 2 were coming from a remix competition that I did some time ago on my website, so that 2 up-and-coming artists and DJs could somehow get a little window there too, and we always try to help young people and to give them a platform and an opportunity with a label. And so the second volume came out after we did the video for the single, and actually for those that want to have the whole packaging, let's say the album plus the remixes, the single, then we decided to do this deluxe version of the album, which includes basically 17 tracks, and for free the video of the single.
Now, what would your favorite song be on the album, and why?
Behind the album, I would say my favorite song is Voices from a Submerged Sea, which is track number 11. And it's my favorite because of the way we recorded this track. I had an orchestra with live strings, and it was very emotional, and also the track was somehow conceived thinking about a soundtrack. I'm currently actually working on a soundtrack for a project for the USA, and also the track has been included in that soundtrack for the movie. So, yeah, I don't know, there's something about the track that I really like.
Now, you mentioned soundtrack. When you moved through Organic and you kind of dropped out of the more commercial side, you mentioned that there was a lot of interest in your work for film scores and for commercials and so forth. Do you find that you now sort of produce on that angle, leaning towards, say, a film score or a commercial rather than a dance floor?
Well, let's say that I like to do both. I still DJ quite a lot, and I still like DJing, and I still like dance music, especially when it's like electronic music and, more kind of deep techno and tech house kind of thing, minimalist techno as well. And by the same time, I also like to play, and, I like to experiment with live instrumentation. And of course, they are two different worlds. I try sometimes to mix the two together, but as you might know, being a DJ, people on the dance floor usually prefer either electronic music, and then people at home, or maybe people that like to go more out to concerts and stuff like that, maybe prefer a bit more the acoustic side of the music. So, I find myself in both shoes, let's say, and I quite enjoy it, to be honest with you.
That killed two of the questions I was going to ask there. I was wondering what your thoughts are on Ableton, and do you use Ableton as either part of your live shows or production?
No, I don't use any software like Ableton or Live or all these Traktor, all this software also used to DJ. Because I still like to DJ the old way, and with my vinyls. Now I'm starting with CDs as well, but I still like to have something to touch and something to work with. I find all these little softwares around actually limiting a little bit the creativity in music, because I mean they pretty much all sound the same. They all have the same samples, and you can really spot all the records that are coming out and have been produced with these softwares, because of course people use those samples as they are, and they don't try to personalize them.
Well, I saw your old setup from about 2001 or so. Has it changed much from then? Are you still using a lot of the hard synths and so forth for your productions?
Yeah, we still use a lot of outboard gear. Of course, I use Logic and Pro Tools and all that software to produce my music, because, I mean, that's the standard and that's the best thing you can use at the moment. But I try always to have some analog sounds in there, because they sound warmer and they sound a bit more, personal, let's say.
Way back in the early 90s, you actually started a pirate radio station. Do you think this has had influence on your sound and your style?
Well, it definitely helped me to get out there, because at that time I was living in Italy, nearby Venice, and I was playing some underground clubs, and near the town where I was living, and through the radio that we set up at that time, we managed to extend our territory much more far away than around the city where we were living, so we could reach like 200 kilometers far away cities, and through that, basically, I managed to get in touch with some new clubs, with some new promoters, and step by step, I started producing music and get known out there.
And you didn't have any problems with the law trying to hunt you down for illegally broadcasting?
Absolutely. In Italy at that time, there was not really like a specific law about broadcasting yet. So if you would find a little hole in the FM, you would just put yourself in there with a little, signal first, and then see if everything was going all right. And if you wouldn't get any complaint, then you would just start transmitting. But I remember we changed like at least 5 or 6 frequencies in 5 years. So in the end, this law came out, trying to legalize all the frequencies, and of course, we couldn't afford to pay for it, and we just let go,
Now, a lot of people find that the way for interest or to grow their name is to do it through the internet now, through web streaming and so forth, or their own shows or podcasts. Have you found that, maybe you were, I would say a bit lucky, but you took that aggressive step to do it via pirate radio, and now everybody seems to do it through podcasting, and you maybe have to find your own unique way to get out and noticed?
Yeah, the problem with the internet is that, of course, it's easy to set up a podcast or your little radio station and all of that. The problem is, how do you get people to listen to it? And so, of course, with all the social networks and all this stuff happening at the moment, you do manage to, to attract people in your page and all of that, but I don't think that that's enough to cover, your expectation. So you need to work from all sides, the internet, the radio, the traditional radio side of things, because still a lot of people listen to traditional radio, and a lot of people still don't have a computer and don't listen to the internet radio. So we are in a moment of transition, I think, and it will take a few years more in order to get there.
Now, if you had a tip or a suggestion for something that producers or DJs are doing wrong right now, which you would like to see change. I know earlier you mentioned, everybody uses Ableton and they all have the same sounds or samples. Mm-hmm. Can you give me an example of, say, something like that, where if a young and upcoming producer or DJ were to maybe try something a little different, they might have a bit more success?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't know. I think, of course it's okay to use samples. I use samples all my life too in my productions, but there's one way of working with it as it is, and then maybe you can try to personalize that sample, that kick or that snare, or any sounds that is given with the software, and maybe try to be a little bit more original with your sounds and of course, when you can achieve that, it will be much easier for you to get noticed out of the big crowd that is out there using all the same software.
And here's a different question. If you could unproduce one of your own songs or maybe make some major changes to it, what one would it be?
Oof. I would probably say 1 and 1, the track that I didn't really want to do when I was signed to BMG, but in the end they all tried to convince me, and then I did it. But it's definitely not the kind of track I would do or I would have done just on my own.
Was there a specific incident that really changed your style from the dream genre to your current sound now?
Well, probably I would say the success I had, because when I did that album, I was playing pretty much like underground techno and underground trance, which in the 90s was pretty different than what they call trance now.
Mm-hmm.
So I lost the plot there. What were we talking about?
We were talking about what had changed your
what
style.
Had changed, yeah. I would say the success that I had through the first album, Dreamland, was totally unexpected. I like to call it an happy accident because, of course, that record was my first album that I produced on my own in my little bunker there in Italy, in my garage, and I would never have expected that album to sell what it sold and to have the success it had. And of course, if I compare it with what I'm doing now, the production was really rough, was really simple. But then again, maybe that's why it got so successful. But those are, records that you just do, and you don't really think I'm gonna go in the charts with this. You just do it, and it just happens.
Being from Canada, just wondering what your thoughts are, someone like Deadmau5, on how his rise has really, in some minds, in myself, a little bit mirrored how your success went, where he kind of came out and was doing some work on one area, yet his true passion at times, specifically with DJing, was in a completely different area.
Right. Sorry, I didn't get what you're talking about.
The Deadmau5 from Toronto. Just wondering what your thoughts were on his work and success so far.
Yeah, well, I think these days there are more and more DJs and producers and musicians and vice versa. You can see, I don't know, for example, Tom York from Radiohead DJing in LA. You check on YouTube, he's there doing his DJ set, which you wouldn't expect really from a guy that is doing the music he's doing. And at the same time, you can see a DJ trying maybe to, experiment with more kind of live elements. And of course, the whole thing is getting contaminated by all the genres with each other, and we're just getting into this big thing that is like everybody wants to contaminate this music, and Deadmau5 is one of them. Deadmau5 is doing electronic music, but at the same time he likes to do other things. What I really like about him is the fact that in his DJ sets he plays only his music, and I think that's great. When a DJ can achieve that, then it means he has done a lot of work and he has, something good in his hands.
Now, I do have to ask about Children, and if there was a storyline behind it, and if you could clear up any of that. I know I've heard a couple different versions and what I've read on your website, so I was just wondering if the inspiration behind that.
Okay, the inspiration, basically, there are two stories behind the record. The first one is that my father went in a humanitarian expedition with Caritas, which is like I don't know if you know what it is. It's like European. It's like the Red Cross, basically. They just go in countries where there are war or problems with food and stuff, and they bring food and clothes to the children and all of that. And every weekend, while the Yugoslavian war was going on in Europe, my father was going there with some friends, bringing food and clothes to these war children. And when he came back home one day, he just showed me some pictures, and I was struck by a specific picture that basically gave me the input to start the track. And at the same time in Italy, we had a lot of people dying, young people dying on the roads that summer because they were taking too many drugs, they were drinking and then driving home. And of course, drinking and driving doesn't go with driving. So, we had a lot of deaths, and we wanted to try to make music, more melodic music, and slow it down a bit, because at the time everybody was really playing a very hard techno music. And we did, together with some other DJs in the northeast of Italy, we tried to slow down the music and to introduce more kind of melodic elements into the techno scene. And that's why, the record also was done. So there are these two stories around the single that people sometimes kind of misunderstand because they don't know if it's one or the other. I like to say that it's both.
Excellent. And I guess my final question is, how are we going to get you to Canada here to play some for us?
Anytime. I would love to come. I've always been so close to come, and then in the end I never came. But I hear Toronto and other cities in Canada have a really good scene, and I would love to play there. So, you know where I am, and if somebody wants to bring me there, I will be very happy to join you guys.
Excellent. Well, you were on the radar a little while ago while I was living and working in Toronto to try to set that up. Unfortunately, I moved myself back to outside of Toronto, and things have changed there, but we'd love to get you involved and try to bring you out here at some point soon. So
yeah, sounds good. I'd love to.
Well, thank you very much for chatting with us, and
thank you.
I wish you the best in the future.
All right, and I hope to see you soon. Hi, this is Robert Miles, and you're listening to DJ Amps on Amplified Radio. Hi, this is Robert Miles, and this is my latest track on Amplified Radio.